When Jesus died on the cross, he was engaging in the most incredible act of spiritual warfare, and that's reflected in the physical environment around him. In Luke 23:44, we read this: "It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon." And to understand the importance of this, we need to go back to the beginning of God's story in the scriptures. Genesis 1, verses 1 to 2. "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. Emptiness and a totally impenetrable darkness hovered over creation." And the first words uttered by God is a commandment in verse 3. "Let there be light." God spoke into the darkness, and he dispelled the darkness by his command. Now, this was before the creation of the sun or the moon or the stars. The power of the voice of God was enough to vanquish this impenetrable darkness. And what was the source of that light? Well, it was God himself, as God poured himself into the darkness. Remember the description of heaven in Revelation 21:23. "The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp." But now here we are in Luke 27 as our Saviour is dying, and we see the exact opposite happening. Verse 44, "It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land." At noon, when the sun should have been highest in the sky, when there should have been the most natural light, there was total darkness. God said, "Let it be dark," and it was dark. This was not an eclipse of the sun. This was not some untimely event in the sky. This was God withdrawing his light from creation, and the whole world was plunged into darkness. Every day since the creation of the world, the sun had done its job, but not on that day. As Jesus dies on the cross, the sun fails and all becomes dark. And we're reminded of Exodus chapter 10, in which God sends a plague of darkness on the land of Egypt. And this plague of darkness immediately preceded the deaths of the firstborn across the whole of Egypt. And now here we are as Jesus dies, and darkness falls at the death of God's firstborn son. The judgment of God is falling on the plague of sin. And here's the incredible thing. In this moment, a second Passover is happening. Death rests on the firstborn Son of God so that it can pass over each one of us who are his sons and daughters by faith. The Son, S-U-N, fails, but the Son, S-O-N, is victorious. This Son of God is conquering death, eliminating the power of sin, vanquishing the gates of hell, and destroying the works of the devil. A cosmic spiritual battle on a scale that we can't possibly imagine. The full measure of the judgment of God on evil falls on his beloved Son. The full weight of the sins of the world rests on the shoulders of Jesus, and God turns out the light. And we read in verse 48, "When all the people who gathered to witness this sight saw what took place, they beat their breasts and went away." Hours earlier, they'd been mocking Jesus. They'd been calling for his crucifixion. They taunted him as he was dying. But now everything has changed. The crowd becomes silent as they are plunged into a darkness that lasts for 3 hours. They can hear Jesus speaking on the cross these 7 words that are recorded in the Gospels. They can hear him, but they can't see him. As Jesus dies, his words are recorded in Luke 23, verse 46, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." What extraordinary faith he had. Jesus' trust in God never wavers, even to his dying breath. Here he is, obedient to his Father's plan, hanging on a cross, carrying the sins of the world, battling Satan in excruciating agony of body, mind, and spirit. But he's not angry with his Father. "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." Because he knows that the victory is his. He knows that our access to the Father is secured through his death. And then another extraordinary change occurs in the physical environment. As Jesus dies, we read in Luke 32:45, "The curtain of the temple was torn in two." This was the curtain that separated the people from the area known as the Holy of Holies, which housed the presence of God. No ordinary curtain. It was 60 feet high, 30 feet wide, and 4 inches thick. An impenetrable barrier between us and God. But as Jesus dies, God tears that curtain right down the middle. And now we can go into the very presence of God. No more priestly sacrifices are needed. God and humanity reunited in one space, just as we were in the Garden of Eden. Eden restored through the death of Jesus. The cross of Christ is the way for you and I to be made right with God. Our sin is put to death with Jesus, and his righteousness is counted as ours. And so we are able to return to Eden, where we were created to be, enjoying an eternity in the presence of God. As Jesus said to the criminal dying on the cross next to him, "Today you will be with me in paradise." So let us, like Jesus, turn to our God and say, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit."